All right. Well, welcome everybody to our fifth, right? Am I correct? Violet? Okay. So our fifth virtual conversation around Fuck the Bucket List. Ayelet's first in the series of three books. This one is Fuck the Bucket List. For the soul, discover the wonder of you. And so, a big theme in this, in discovering the wonder of you, is really about the creators within us. And today we have an amazing group of creators here. So I am just so thrilled to get involved. If you are watching for the first time, the one thing that we tell you is that you can do this. You can jump on camera with us. This is not a panel talking to you. This is a conversation. And so if you want to get on, just message me, preferably on Facebook, because I can only, multitask in so many different places, regardless of what people think I'm capable of. I'm really a klutz when it comes to doing more than one thing. So put two or three on top of me and I just go berserk. So with that being said, Ayelet, I'm going to share a little passage from your book and let you do a little reading to kind of kick us off here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I'm so excited to have Tracy and Karuna here with us as well, and as well have whoever wants to join us in conversation jump on, because this is what 2020 is about: is dialogue, connection, and for those of us who really want to connect, there's a way to do it. And Tim's been amazing, and I lost count, Tim. I feel like we've been doing this forever. So I wanted to start off with just sharing something what the book wanted to share with you today. I literally opened it and I was like, this is perfect, especially since Karuna and Tracy are on today. So I did get my new glasses. Now I could actually see and not just write. So this is from one of the expeditions in Fuck the Bucket List for the Soul, the first book in the trilogy. When you find yourself contemplating what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, take a moment to think of who created the framework distinguishing what is right from what is wrong. Someone may provide us with a list of the 21 foods that we should never eat because they're bad for us. But do they know our body? And sure, research does help to discover what is good for us, but the more significant question is which foods are healthy for our specific body type? Do we know the source of the food we consume and whether it has been genetically modified or kept pure? It's bigger than just knowing how to keep our body healthy. We've been locked into a program of choosing sides and making right and wrong decisions our entire lives. Isn't there always a perceived consequence when we don't choose the right job, the right partner, or the right shoes? But imagine for a moment that you're alone in the world and you get to choose the life you want to live. You're at a crossroads where you can choose one of several paths. There's no one judging you for the choices you will make, and there's no need to defend your choices either. It's up to you to decide for yourself what is healthy and unhealthy for you. Now, take a breath. What opportunity do you see? Which one gets you excited that you feel an energy surge when you visualize it? Now imagine that you're no longer alone on the planet. There are other people here with you. What choice would you now make? One that is deemed good by people around you, or one that you feel is healthy for you? What does it look like when you imagine living to your fullest potential? Can you afford not to go down this path? When we're constantly needing to defend our positions and worry about the choices we make, we get stuck in our problems. Our energy stagnates and we become more concerned about what others think than what our intuition is signaling to us. It doesn't matter whether our resistance comes from external or internal judgment, the outcome tends to be the same. Fear of judgment or making wrong choices keeps us frozen in our problems. It keeps us stuck between 2 points, never moving forward to explore what lies beyond the horizon. With each action you take, you can observe whether you're stuck in the existing paradigm of taking a hammer to every nail, or you're letting go of structures that no longer serve you to create a life that may be unimaginable to some, especially people stuck in our current paradigms. Can you take a moment to imagine what would happen when you let go of any painful or shameful experience that is holding you in the past? For me, this has become a way to acknowledge my true power. In an instant, a small shift takes place in how I approach a person or a situation. So I just wanted to start our conversation in this, because to me, the people that you see right now here are powerful creators on the planet that are incredibly visionary and are taking a different path in life and bringing other people with us as we go. Again, not from pressure, not from right or wrong, but really attracting the people that we want to create a healthy world with, which is what is possible. And so leadership is not outside ourselves. There's no one coming to save us. We talked about that in one of the last talks, and Maria was fantastic in giving us her thoughts about this. And so what I'd love to do is, Tracy and Karuna, maybe you can introduce yourselves, what you're creating in the world, and what these words, if they mean anything to you at all.
Okay, I'll go since I unmuted. I was going to ask Tracy, but we're like signaling. Yeah, so I'm an integrative physical therapist, and I have a very different practice than what's out there that entails physical, emotional, and energy healing all in one, based through the science and the wisdom. And you know, definitely a visionary path in creating that practice and even crafting the message and explaining it to people, and being very different in the industry. Having nobody ever had done anything like that, you get a lot of eyebrows, you get a lot of like, what, disbelief. And you're already not believing, you know inside that this is it, but you don't believe. There's like disbelief in yourself as you're going. So all that doesn't help. Anyway, 7 years in, I'm good with what I do now. I can, you know, but I'm a visionary at heart and a creative. So I'm continuing still to push the boundaries and do other creative things. So it's always in my space, which I'm also trying to shift. I'm glad and grateful to be here, Isla and Tim. So I'm always trying to shift, and everything you're talking about that you read today, really, I mean, it hits home. And I really love the fact how you brought in, you know, just closing your eyes and going inwards, because that's where the security or the confidence, trust is going to come from for a visionary. And that is so, we're not taught that in school. So we got all the education, but for a visionary, we're not taught any of that. So that's where I find, you know, that your things like your book are very helpful. Thank you.
That was amazing. I feel like I am at that stage you were 7 years ago, Karuna, where I'm like, I know this thing is right, but my entire industry's like, what is Tracy doing over there? I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going, but not with that immense doubt at times. So thank you for that. That was really inspiring. So a bit about me. I own a company called Socially Authentic. And originally, it was a social media education company teaching people how to use social media to achieve their goals, which was great for a couple years. And then kind of already knew how to use social media. I'm like, well, now what? And I kind of stumbled and tried to copy what other people were doing. And we're like, yeah, I'm an agency. I'm a this, I'm a that. I don't know what I am. And so I stepped away from it, actually, and took a full-time job at an ad agency. And that was actually very inspiring because I was surrounded by creatives and strategists and all these people. I'm like, this is great. And yet part of me felt empty inside. And I was like, I love the skill that everyone has and the passion, but I feel like there's a missing piece, right? And so one thing I think a lot about is, you know, social media and mental health. You know, we all know how stressful and anxiety inducing it is. And so I just started developing this approach for myself in the last year about being more vulnerable online, sharing more, just being more real, and still just kind of, you know, moving in the direction of where I want to go in my career. And I'm like, I feel like this is it. I feel like for so long we've heard about building our personal brand and having a specific way of being and always operating in that. And it's very limiting. And I think there's a different way to be online where we can, use the principles of personal branding, digital marketing, but also be our whole selves and admit when we're struggling with imposter syndrome or just having a bad day or just doubting everything, And so that's what I'm creating now, is this framework that I will teach and then also help clients to implement themselves. So I'm excited.
These are really, what's happening in the world right now is crazy, but things need to fall apart. I was sharing before we started that I was on this panel this week, and I started to talk about the timeline split that we're on. And some people are deciding to stay in the mainstream, stay in the jobs, I don't want to see people firing themselves from jobs or being fired from jobs. I want people to step into our power and look and make conscious choices in everything that we do, because it's up to us. Change is not going to come from the top. Change is not going to also come from walking away. But some of us need to walk away because the foundation of most of the systems we have today aren't working. And many people are suffering right now in many ways, and we're not having the conversations about this. We're not talking about the fact that, your imagination is a beautiful thing. And if you can imagine something, then you can tap into your creation. We're talking about productivity. We're talking about the next technology. And I still don't believe that we have true social networks. We don't. We're still using the same old antiquated advertising and business models that look at productivity, efficiency, and growth, even when it comes to the nonprofit sector. And so this is all in our hands to go out and create. And this is why when I'm finished with the third book, I'm going to do something crazy and look to both of you and anyone else who's interested and step out and create a network and a community that we need for visionaries and creators in the world. And it's really aligned with the second book about trekking into the unknown, because even though I had a successful career in tech and I can put together pitches and drive business, whatever, all those skills are a foundation, but are not really needed to where we're headed, because where we're headed is about true collaboration, true co-creation. And I would love to move away a little bit from the personal branding, because I think it makes us mask ourselves. Like we're supposed to be these superheroes in spandex suits. And
Totally. Oh my God.
and go out there and I want to have a collective that we're able to support. I mean, I have been really blessed because I have met everybody on this call in whatever city you're in, and we've had a chance to break bread, maybe even have some wine and conversation, and at a time when we could hug each other, and it was just so beautiful. And because I love technology when it's used for healthy purposes, I want to bring to the world a way that we use technology in a healthy way, where our communities don't have followers, they don't have likes, they don't have an audience, because the only time you have an audience is when you're performing. And so in real life, we need to connect, we need to dialogue, we need to cry together. I can't tell you how many people are going through hell right now. And it feels so lonely because I've got my personal brand. But then you get on a call with someone and you're seeing their posts and they're like, well, I don't have any clients. I don't have any work. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I'm eating spam, whatever. And you're going, what the hell? And I know for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, for me as a woman, it's been very hard to ask for help. Even now when I'm promoting this book, I mean, my goal is to get this book to millions and millions of people so we can be on this healthy timeline. And I don't care about being a best-selling I don't care about any of this stuff. What I care about is that people take the wisdom that was downloaded to me, and the words that were guided to me, and able to apply it to their life. I mean, I just got an email from somebody in Germany who said to me, I want to share this book with my kids. And my heart just almost exploded, because I thought, wow, the book can create dialogue between parents and children. How amazing is this? And so it's about what's in it. And taking, Bruce Lee was an artist. He was a creator, not just in martial arts. And he says, take what's useful, reject what's not. And when you know yourself, you can do that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this.
Oh, so many thoughts. I need to think on them for a moment, though. I guess I agree with everything you say completely. I'm just going to pick out the one part that really resonated with what I've been thinking about, which is the idea of personal branding and how we show oneself to the world right now virtually, and offline or in private chats, we're crying, we're having panic attacks, we're like, oh my God, I'm never going to work again. And I think the challenge that I have struggled with, and tell me if you guys agree with this, is if I put my more vulnerable stuff out there, will I work again? Right? Like last week, I posted something on Instagram saying I'm having a tough time writing my website. And so many people were like, oh, let me give you feedback, da, da, da. And it was great conversation. But then I had a panic attack 2 days later. And I'm like, oh my God, a future client could see that and they won't hire me because that one time I was honest and said I was struggling. So I took it down because I was just like, I'm not there yet. And I did a video about taking it down and why I decided to do that. Your Karina's thumbs up. I'm so, what's your thoughts?
That's because you're being authentic. And I just wanted to before I don't want to interrupt, but that was the journey. Like you did it, and then you're like, oh my God, and you took it, and that's what most of the people are going to go through anyways. And so you're like, I'm just going to do it instead of like suffering through behind the walls at my house, And so that's what the thumbs up was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that was my initial thought. But Karina, what are your thoughts? Or Tim?
Oh, no, if you don't mind, Karina, I just want to make a point that, we're talking about this right in social media and branding and what we put out into the world. But this is no different than what happens in the workplace too, right? Like if you're in a job when you still went to an office, or if you still do go to an office, there are workplaces, many that still, if you're having a private conversation, right, that's personal with a coworker, and a manager or director or boss comes by, they want to demand what you're talking about because you're on their dollar, on their paycheck, and you're not actually being productive. So what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm sorry, but I'm so sick of it, and this is why I'm not putting myself back in that situation again, is because there are places like that, and this is like so toxic for us, and not for everybody, but for me, it was so toxic because it destroyed who I was as a person. And, I don't want to just make this conversation about what happens online, because this happens in our everyday lives. I mean, think about if you're a parent with your kids, think about with your family, if you have, parents or grandparents that expect a certain thing out of you, the mask that you still wear, the way that you show up in front of them, being who you are. And being authentic and truly authentic is much more than just what we do online. It's about how we live our lives. I'm sorry, I'll get down off of my soapbox now.
Yes, all of it.
Well, that's great, because I that was going to be my takeaway from what Isla was asking, and I love that how you brought in the real life factor, because we are living people, we're living, right? And wherever we go is what we're creating. So I know Isla is a big fan of this, and so am I. There's no distinction between work and life, because you're the center of it. And so, for a visionary, I think part of it is also, we like to be authentic. Because we like to do shit our way. That's the whole thing. Right? And so you you have this fight between being authentic and like everybody else is doing, or mainstream, or what's popular, or what's getting the promotions or the likes, right? And so it's what's the core thread for me. I feel to be successful, if you can heal yourself, and I'm a healer, so that's the language I speak. You know, if you heal, transform, evolve yourself into becoming more into your own skin and being authentic, then everything lines up in accordance, because you get your branding and your exposure and your promotions and your speaking gigs and whatever, because you know something comes up and you're like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. And they're like, okay. It's no ego, no pride, no, it's just like, I know myself and I'm just going to show up authentically. And I think this year we all got boxed in like this, so we had to move around only like this, and we really had to go visit authenticity. And so I'm looking forward to next year and wanting to see more on authenticity, and it just, I feel like it's a struggle for everybody, and it may be a lifelong struggle. If you're an evolving, growing person, it gets easier, and hopefully it would, but I think it would. I'm going to say that I think it does get easier as more and more you kind of tread the same path. But yeah, authenticity would be my thing, and I forgot what the question was, but that's my answer.
Well, Karuna, you actually brought up something that, you know, when you were talking earlier, you mentioned about you're continually kind of evolving, you know, what you're doing, right? And making adjustments and growing that. And, you know, so to your point, yes, it does get a little bit easier because you're more familiar with the process that you're going through, right? But the whole experience of that loneliness, that pain, that, you know, that you know, the feeling of it being work instead of flow, you know, until you make it flow. It's all these things that we kind of have to go through in order to get back up to that point. But I think our recovery time becomes a lot quicker the more often we do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so interesting because so much of this is the constructs that were handed down to us from, you know, we either inherited or just accepted them from where people were before us, and it's just so interesting to me that we just accept it as the way that it's supposed to be. And you know, a lot of people tell me like it's an age thing, and I call bullshit on it, because I think I say fuck the age thing, because you know, it might take somebody, you know, 10 years and it might take somebody 90 years, but age isn't a factor in here. And, you know, all these divisions that we have, all these right and wrong and all these sides are making us nutty. And especially, you know, I think I'm the only one right now not in the United States physically. But, you know, I made a conscious choice in November 2016 to leave, and here I am watching insanity unfold in the world. But you know, the insanity I think that is the most concerning to me is so many people warring within ourselves, and so many people, like, we need the healers right now in whatever. Like Tracy, to me, you're a healer too. Because if people can get their message out and what they're creating, and maybe the clients that would be offended, I you know, why are we offended? I don't understand that, or I don't accept it. The clients that would be offended aren't the ones for you, and that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is that to really look at what's healthy for me and what's toxic, and nobody could tell me that. You know, I've tried so many things, things I write about publicly and things I don't. And and it was hard to share some of them, and I share more of them as the books progress. But, you know, it's been a gift to fail. And I was always taught to be successful. And, you know, it's so funny, like when I'm on a panel or giving a talk, people read my bio, and I'm thinking like, now I got to put my fuck ups in my bio. Like, she tried this and she failed. Like, I'm like, it's like, I want if I have an obituary, I want it to say like all the stuff that didn't work and the struggles, because that's who I am. I'm not this like perfect poster, person who has no flaws. I have a ton of them. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here.
I just got this vision of your new about page, like 2 parts. Like the profesh one, and then the fuck up list, right? New movement to start that for all of us.
Well, I think, but to your point, Ayelet, that is what most of us have been brought up with, right? Like when something doesn't work the way that we anticipated it happening, we failed. And, for years, I have changed that narrative for myself personally. And the only time I fail is when I don't learn from what I just went through. Every other time is falling down because I'm getting back up and I'm learning and I'm evolving and I'm growing from that. And, to me, that's like, imagine just the simplicity of doing something like that and how it can change your mindset, how it can change the health in your own, not just in your mind, but in your body. And that to me has been so great. Now, it doesn't make it any less painful when you fall, but that recovery process is now an opportunity instead of a blame.
I agree. You actually were super helpful this summer when we were planning our wedding, Tim. I remember a couple of your comments about expectations. I think it was like you just said a couple things along the line. I don't know what you said specifically, but your comments were very encouraging. And I was like, okay, this is a good reframing. For context,
I think it was expectations versus certainty, right?
Yes, that was it. Yes. I was like, oh, yes, he's so right. We were planning our wedding in the pandemic. And we had hoped to have our wedding in our yard with like up to 50 people, which is the limit in Illinois at the time. And for all these reasons, it went sideways. And I ended up getting exposed to COVID at a socially distant bachelorette party of mine. And we had to cancel the whole thing. And we eloped. And it was the most beautiful elopement. So it all worked out.
That's great.
And it was on the beach too, right?
It was right on the beach. Just what we wanted.
That brings me to uncertainty, because uncertainty is they say it's one of the most uncomfortable things for human beings. And when you're a visionary, there's a lot of freaking uncertainty. And it's like there's uncertainty because you don't really know how it's going to work out, but you know what you want and you know what you want to create, And if you can just get comfortable with uncertainty, then in Tracy's, experience, like what happens is you're opening yourself up to the possibilities. And we know that, like Ayelet said, imagination is a huge thing. And a lot of times when you get uncomfortable with certainty and comfortable with uncertainty, I said it the backwards way, comfortable with uncertainty and opening up to possibilities, usually we get surprised with because then we're not using the mind as our limitation of what could possibly be. So
did you find that to be the case when you held to your vision and kept going? Like, did you get surprised along the way?
So yes, I still get surprised. So I've been a PT for 23 years. I started my practice at year 15, which is pretty seasoned, but every year, the more I open my healing philosophy and the healing model, the things that have been told to me that are not possible in healing a body just get checked out the window. Someone comes in and is like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want, Karuna. Okay, let's go after it. And we go, and I'm just, I can just sit there and I go, oh my God. And then the clinician in me will go, let me check everything, so that it's like pinching yourself in a dream. So I check everything and I'm like, nope, this is a real result, you know, and so that's what's driven me, because when the clients come in and this happens, I'm like, well, what else is there? Well, what else is there? So in 7 years, I would say we've evolved at least 3 to 4 levels in our healing, and I plan on to keep pushing it, because, you know, I want to give humans whatever possibilities are possible. And if I'm like this, using Eyelet's word, the download expert, I can download the whole cosmos. I'm all good for that. So, I got that power, you know, I got my little unicorn on. So yes. So, you know, and that, I think, helps build confidence in the uncertainty. You got to remember, almost like a mental journal or a journal of what has helped you. What is your real life experience that you're having, like this amazing call right now of 4 people, right, who are creative leaders and visionaries. It's a real tangible thing, and you use that to keep giving you confidence. And okay, I may not know what's next, but I did experience this, because experience is the greatest trust. You experience it, you can't doubt. And that helps unwind all the conditioning and the frameworks that we've been conditioned to and exposed to.
Karina, you have some great stories about clients. Maybe you could bring one to life. Don't want to put you on the spot, but of someone who came in with some kind of problem and you turned it into an opportunity for them.
Yeah, let's see. Well, since we're talking about authenticity and branding and all this stuff online, I have a celebrity client who, well, I didn't know was a celebrity. That happens to me a lot, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just, you know, yeah, through the conversation, they're like, oh, I have this. And I'm like, oh, so it's nice. Okay, so that's the story back end. So client comes in with a totally mangled, messed up ankle, foot, broken bone, torn ligaments. And she's like, I don't want surgery. So the first physician says, you have to have surgery. She's a creative, visionary, outside the box, break all the rules kind of person like us. And she's like, I don't think so. So she goes to another ortho, and he's like, you don't really need surgery. Just go get some physical therapy. So she comes to me, and we're totally like aligned on this whole vision of, we're not going to do this rough and tough PT. We're going to do this other stuff that we do, integrative. And so she's all in for it, except, you know, she has her own limitations of how the body should heal. I don't, she does, which of course, you know, they're not exposed to this all day in and out. So we grow into how, you know, the body is a communicator of what's happening inside, and pain is just a communication. It's not an indication of like what you know, it's not what we think, like pain is horrible. It's not like that. It's a guider. So we're going through this. And so what's happening is we're learning to connect with listening to the self through the physical entity, which is our human body. Now, we all know when you start listening to the self, a lot of things want to change on the inside and out. So she does great in her healing. So the foot is fine. The foot and ankle are fine. So, but what happens is she starts getting all these changes in her business. And so when she got hurt, she was going through a branding change, like pictures, website, everything, right? And she's been doing what she's been doing, I'm gonna guess like 30 years. So she's got a huge following and branding and everything. And she's like, I don't think so. This is not authentic. I don't want this anymore. So the body and her journey kind of lined up, because she needed to heal on the inside to show up more authentically for her branding. So we get through the foot. And so usually in our journey, we don't just stop only at the physical. We keep going. The other physical things show up. We talk about mental, emotional, energy flow, right? So now she's like bringing up issues that come up at her photo shoot. I want to do this, but I'm not sure. I look like this. I look old. And I'm like, you look fantastic. Like, what are you talking about? Like, look at this. This is who you are, right? And so she had to grow from the inside, and it was showing up authentically in her branding, what she was talking about on her blogs, who she was showing up in the family, and so this healing journey in our space, you're coming in for something physical, but we are more than just bones and muscles. And so my style is we're going to use everything. Why would we not use everything to heal you? Why would we only use like one little thing? No, that's, in my mind as a healer, that's dumb. So we use everything, right? And then of course, because it's inside, everything on the outside changes. So for her, and just amazing, like she's like laying in bed recovering. She was really, really worried about, I'm not doing anything. Well, she landed one of her biggest speaking gigs ever, just like that. Her company instantly transformed and simplified. And she's like, she's gotten even bolder. She's like, I don't want to do any of the work. I don't want to do anything. I want other people to handle it. I'm done. And I'm like, well, go for it. What do you need to do? Let's go for it, right? So it's, it's very, very transformative when we go from the inside out. And, that's what I do. But I know my goal is for anybody who walks in to be more themselves. Just feel more ease in their skin, who they are, and express that and show up that way. And yes, we are just a PT clinic, but we're not.
Yeah. That was an amazing story. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh. So there's a lot more, so kind of like bringing almost therapy, life coaching, even almost like spiritual direction in some ways into the work that you do.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a visionary trait, but I don't like labels too much.
I was just making analogies.
We have to like contain things with words, okay, right? So
yeah.
So, I stay away from coaching because I just feel like we're already pretty awesome. Sometimes we just need a direction or a reminder or say, hey, change the lens and look at this, right? And spiritual, the more and more I've gotten spiritual, the more and more I'm like, isn't this just who we are? Don't we just give a fuck about shit? I think that's what spiritual is. You give a fuck. I'm so glad this is not on television because I'm cursing so much. But you just care. And if you care, like, I think that stimulates something on your inside. And so the word spiritual comes along.
But if you've been conditioned, like some people, like I'm raised Catholic, it's only within the parameters of the theology of Catholicism, which as a woman is terrible, right? So like,
yes,
there's a movement now, especially among former Catholics and women in particular, I've seen among my friends and just people, is we are reclaiming spirituality without those words, without that dogma that restricts us. But we don't have a word for it, right?
Yeah, I think we need to come up with a word.
Like, that's the thing. Oh, it's woo-woo. Like,
stop that woo-woo shit. I can back up clients like that. But but yes, we need to come up with another word. Let's make that a thing. We do.
Yeah.
And it's personal. I mean, this is the conditioning of right and wrong, right? Right and wrong and good and bad, they've been created for the lowest common denominator. Because some asshole down the line decided to do some terrible things. And so we created things to put us into these frameworks. You know, I mean, you come home as a child with your report card, which is ridiculous because someone outside yourselves is telling you who you are, you know, from an early age. And your parents say, well, how does it compare to everyone else? Well, who the fuck cares? Like, I am not everyone else. You know, I am me, and how am I growing to be into who I am? And, you know, it's really, to me, it's sad right now because many of us who considered ourselves spiritual are seeing like the guruism and the business of spirituality unfold. I talk a lot about this in the third book because, you know, being silent and meditating, you know, in silence and being told, you know, and here's like a fancy cushion that you could buy to sit and meditate and go inside yourself. The only person who's getting wealthy is the person creating the cushion. And so, you know, when spirituality becomes big business, and again, we're not inside ourselves saying, okay, what's healthy or toxic for me? Because no one else can tell us, you know, and no one else could know. And so this whole language thing is so big because I think in the people that have stepped off the conformity timeline and are really looking at what's possible, what are the opportunities of trekking into the unknown and uncertainty, there's a language that's evolving, and that gentleness and compassion for ourselves, and in not feeling like, oh, I said the wrong thing. Oh my God. You know, like I did a panel yesterday and I was so me and everybody else was so interesting. And I was driving to the post office to pick up a pass, and this voice started in my head and I was like, why? And then I said, who is this? Like, what are you saying? Like, why am I even questioning this? Like, how do I feel? Did I get a chance to play? You know, did I impact at least one person? Did I create some ripples? Is somebody going to be kinder to their child today because of something that I said? Is somebody going to be kinder to themselves? And I'm like, where are these voices coming from? And Tracy, you just hit it in that conditioning of what we were told. And unraveling that is such a beautiful thing. And I think like the more we stop working and we start playing, like if you get up in the morning and you start saying, where do I want to play?
Oh, I love that. That's lovely.
And there's such a talk a little bit more about that, because I talk about it all the time, that because play in the energy world is like energy flowing. It's really light. There's such a resistance to play, man. It's like you can't be serious and get real stuff done, meaning impactful stuff in the world, and play. And so,
well, think about language, right? I mean, so much of our language comes from the military, right? When we stop, we vacate, we go on vacation because we vacate, and we retreat. Like, let's all go to a retreat center, right? And if you look at the etymology of retreat, it comes from war and conflict. And so, of course, we need to rest from all the war and conflict that happens within us. That's a given. But, you know, at a certain age, we're not allowed to play anymore. We're asked as kids, like, let's stop asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Let's start asking kids, what do you love? What do you hate? What's healthy for you? What's toxic for you? I mean, I ultimately want to do a book for kids about it's for me, it's not for me. Because I think the more kids that understand what's healthy for me and what's toxic for me, the more that we can distinguish that, hey, maybe those people think they're cool, but they're not for me. I don't want anything to do with them. And I don't want to wear those brands, and I don't need more shit. And I swear all the time, I wrote a book with the word fuck, Karuna, so I'm perfectly fine with it. But the play piece, like, I feel like we're playing, like it's not work. And you know, there's a voice when before you go on camera, you're going like, hang on a sec, you know, I've got to be this person. No, fucking show up and stumble and be whoever you want to be. And tomorrow you could be someone else as well, as long as you are feeling it within. And you know, I can't tell you, you know, how many times in my lifetime I've died. And I don't hold all this shit that I've been caring about because this is what I was told. And then I'm like going, okay, what can I do now? And I'm probably age-wise, physically wise, I'm the eldest one here, but I feel like a little kid, and I don't give a shit. It doesn't restrict me.
Was there like a ritual you did when that part of you died?
Well, it's hard. Easy and hard are constructs that we created. Like what's easy for me may be hard for you. What's hard for you may be easy for me. So it's all, again, very personal. But the thing that I did was like really understand that I'm not separate from nature, and that, I started like taking time to really understand and value nature, and even look around. Like everything, we're so arrogant as human beings, but if you look at anything in the room around you, or I don't think Tim's in the pool yet, but wherever you are, everything came from nature. Everything, and so did we. And so there wasn't a ritual. There was the writing. For me is a ritual, because when I don't do anything, like people come to me for advice about writing, and the work that I do with people is help them, like what Karuna is saying, is help them get in touch with them, because I wrote 3 books. I never did an outline. Like things come down, and I'm like, and then there's synchronicity. Like I was writing, I was adding things to the 3rd book about the artist within us. And I was thinking about Bruce Lee as being an artist, because most people know him for his martial arts. And the next thing I know, there's an article that appeared in my email about Bruce Lee being an artist. And I was like, oh my God. And I have like tons of those examples of things coming up. And when you're in flow, that's the thing. The ritual that I did was in the 1st book, when I talk about my ancestor clearing, of really coming into the voices that were in my head, that were telling me, you can't do this, you're not enough, you're not good enough, and going back and sitting with myself and saying, where did this come from? And when I went to my great-grandparents' house in Vienna, where they were taken off to a concentration camp, and I walked in that house and met the woman who put a plaque on the building of everyone who lived in that house, who was killed in the Holocaust, it became really real for me, and it allowed me to do a clearing. So I had to go face my past, and I was very lucky that most of my family escaped, and I'm here. And so it allowed me, and from an early age, I've been doing things where I can look at things in the eye and say, is it my responsibility to drag this along with me everywhere I go? Or do I look at the hurt and the pain and kind of be able to release it? And so for each one of us, it's very personal, but the same people who created the education system, the same people who created the healthcare system, also created the military. And so I'm just saying, fuck this, let's have healthy creators in the world step into our power. And if you're in healthcare, create the healthcare system that you want. Karuna didn't have to ask for permission. Tracy, you're going to create something amazing for our world. Tim, you're doing something, like you've been talking about it and now you're in it. And it's going to take time, because like what I learned from nature is, like when you plant a seed in the ground, you can't look at it in 4 to 5 days and say, where the fuck are my tomatoes? You got to water it. You got to nurture it. You got to take the weeds out. Some of your plants will not grow. And so you've got to start over. But that's what nature teaches us.
So true.
Yeah, that was fabulous. And I love your plant analogy, because when we're creating, you're like, okay, I'm done. Where is everybody? And so having like a visual that we see day in and day out. We see like a flower or a plant, and then we see like 3 months later roses everywhere. So it's always around us to remind us. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was how you were sharing about nature, and if I may correlate it to, it sounded to me as a healer like your nature was your meditative grounding. And I always say that to people as a healer, what is going to help you ground yourself through this process? And I use that word very loosely and just make you feel better, you know? So like Tracy Eilert saying she was using nature for visionary creative, it's very important to have that space to know yourself, as Ayelet was saying, and create what is going to soothe you so that when you get into this, like, okay, I'm letting all this other framework go and it's like jumbling and crashing and you're like, what is going on? You just go back into, I use nature also. I have a tree outside my window that I talk about all the time in my bedroom. It's one tree. And man, do we have so many conversations. When I bought this place, I had no idea. I will go lay in my bed because it's like a straight shot and we talk. And there's like sections of it that I know sprouted when I bought the place. And that is like at some point it went into branches and into twigs and then a strong branch. And I was like, when did that happen? Like, so just, that's my meditative kind of grounding without the meditation. So yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you guys. Yeah. I love asking people more about their spiritual beliefs. I actually have a degree in writing about faith. So my journalism training, I decided to specialize in why do people believe what they believe. And all I did all day was interview different people from different beliefs. And it's just something I love hearing. So thank you.
What did you find? What are the things that you found?
So this was about 15 years ago. And I talked to Wiccans, Baptists, Jewish people, atheists, Catholics, a couple others. And everybody had the same general ideas, even atheists. Everybody was kind of like, I'm here to do good. I'm imperfect. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to screw up. And I need to be compassionate and help other people and just keep going. Across the board, every single person said the same thing.
Fascinating.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Let's put it into action. That's the thing. It's what's stopping us. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is here to be discovered. And, we get so excited by innovation and as somebody who loves technology, of course I am, but, this is a technology. The most disruptive technology humankind has ever had was the light bulb, because before the light bulb, we didn't work 24/7. You couldn't go into a factory using candles or kerosene, or you could, but the dangers were there, but the whole population did not shift. And nobody started, I've not seen anybody do a documentary or blame the light bulb for disrupting our lives.
That's awesome.
And technology is not evil. It's how we use it and how we implement it. And I am looking for people who want to create the next healthy social community platform with me. And I don't even want to be in the spotlight for it. I want to help lift other folks, but have a place where we do this and we could find each other based on what we're creating in the world. And I finally decided that, when this book is, the third book is out in the world, that's what I'm going to be doing, and finding really creative ways to get these books to millions of people that are ready for them, because, and in different business models. So I need a ton of ideas, because it's been really gut wrenching to look at the way that we market, and the fact that, I don't, how books could become bestsellers on Amazon, to me is gut wrenching, because that's not the point. The point is, can someone take the content and not even know my name and do something in the world? And that's why the book was co-authored by the universe, because it has universal knowledge that we could tap into. And so, I want to ask you guys, where do you need help? Because I don't just need help in getting the word out. I need help with creating new ways. Like, it was so heartwarming. Someone recently asked me for 20 or 40 copies of the book because they want to, it touched them so much that they want to give it. And I have a way to get it to them from other ways. And so, if somebody wants, a whole bunch of books to have conversations within their community, it's not about the sales. People are like, how's your book doing? And I'm like, I don't know how many lives it's touched, and I never will. But I'm hoping it will touch many, because Karuna, it took me so many years to say that I'm a healer too. So where do you guys need help, and what is it? Like, can you help me find ways to ask for help?
I'm thinking. I mean,
conversation.
I'm thinking, but I want to say I love the color. The color is beautiful, right? I just think it's just so well thought out and so well designed. I'm going to noodle on marketing ideas. I will get back to you, and for sure. But I'm gonna post about this today and send everyone to it.
You know what I love is I love that you are demonstrating this authenticity, of like, I wrote this book and I also don't agree with the marketing style. And I'm not going to sit there and fucking look at like how many sales I had, because that doesn't have anything to do with impact. And that's a true visionary. Because one of my things is I want my visionaries to be rich, because we freaking go for all this shit, amazing stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not about the book sales, but you know what? We have to live and eat and still be awesome. And sometimes we like to get our hair done, and that costs cash. So anyway.
Do you have anything where people can like write their own lists and share them?
That's what I want to do with the heartpickings.com that I'm going to launch after the book.
Okay.
Is after the third book, which is about it's fuck the bucket list for the health conscious, trusting your heart. This platform is going to come after it. And once you, like, the first book has like a sample of the second book, and the second book has a sample of the third book. And the third book has this platform that we'll start creating in 2021. Called heartpickings.com. It's not live yet, but it will be live. And not only will we have that, but I want to find somebody who can create an algorithm for matching people based on what they're creating. So I'm also looking for a technologist. And I'm gonna go into I started doing research, and I figure, like, I used to work for a tech company. Somebody I know can connect me to someone who created a matching algorithm for humans. And so I'd love, for the people like, Karuna, there's probably other PTs in the world that, would your wisdom. And so if we can, get into these books, and it's kind of funny because the universe created, I had one book and the universe told me to do the 3 books. And the first one is Discover the Wonder of You, because once you discover your wonder and you look at your soul inside and you do your inner work, then you can be an adventurer trekking into the unknown, which is the second book. And then you really become health conscious, and you trust your heart and your intuition with your mind, of course. Like, to me, it's an alignment. You have a healthy ego, and so you can go there. And then, Tracy, then we'll have this platform that I hope is a co-creation between a whole bunch of us. Like, I don't want it just to be my own.
Yeah, I love your vision, and I think it's so going to happen, maybe faster than you realize. No expectations.
So here's my contribution to your question. Because, I'm about energy first, and one of the things I've learned as a visionary plus healer is, because we are trying to not be in a pre-made framework, is to definitely start inwards like a child, and then just do the things that feel better to you to do in regards to this book. Because in the energy world, when we're in alignment with what alignment is really just about what we want to do our way. And so there's this conversation that's occurring for us between you and I. It was very organic. I didn't even know what I was stepping into, honestly. I think you tricked me. So the very, you just are just naturally being you. And that is when energy creates for you and brings back to you what your real intention is without you even having that certainty. So opening to uncertainty and openness is really, just doing whatever you want to do your way. And sometimes it may be something small. You may think it's small, like the three of us talking, if that's small, or you may like ping someone and say, hey, how are you doing? And that you may talk about something, you may not. You may just share something you wrote in your book, right? But then that inspires you for another thought, right? So, that's my for now. And I know we're going to be talking offline about doing other things. So, yeah.
Well, I just love conversation, and that's what, to me, we're going to start seeing in 2021 new platforms emerging when we can connect in these ways. And so we need the visionaries to be part of it. Like, this is now we've planted the seed, and now we nurture and water and get the sun, and deal with the darkness as well, and kind of come through the earth to see what's possible. But my prediction, as my box of being a futurist, is by 2027, this world is going to be very different than the one we're in right now. And maybe in October 29th, 2027, we can have another conversation at 8 a.m. Pacific and kind of compare notes. Tim.
Hey, I'm
Wrap
back.
it up for us.
Well, I don't know if it was my Wi-Fi. My Chrome needs updating on this computer, so who knows? But I didn't want to take away because it was always freezing up if I was on camera, so I jumped off. But I know I've said this before, and the one thing that just brings me so much joy is giving. And Tracy, you even mentioned that when you were talking to all these different religions. That's the one thing, people wanted to help others. They wanted to give to others, right? And to me, these little things that we can create are when we have a conversation with somebody and it resonates something that came from the book. It's a great opportunity to gift that to somebody else, to give them that book, because now it's intentional and it's purposeful. And what they do with it, what happens from it, you never know. But it's that seed that you planted. And I never realized the power of this until we had Linda Polio on, who wrote Trusting the Currents a few weeks ago. And she actually gave me credit for the success of her book because of how many copies I had given out of her book, because it had that much of an impact on me. And when I talked to other people that I knew would resonate with it, I would just gift them a copy of it. And it was amazing how many people I know, I didn't keep track, but I know that those people were doing the same thing. Because it's kind of like when we open a door, well, when we were all in the same physical space together, when we were opening doors for other people, right? And then that next person then would open the door for somebody else. Or, if you're in line at the coffee shop in the drive-through and you order something and you pay for the person in back of you, it's just that thing that makes people want to do the same thing that you just did for them. And I think that's the power of giving. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be something that you want to do that feels good for you, and you're doing it with intention and purpose when you give it to the other person. So I think that is the absolute number one marketing strategy that you can have, Ayelet.
Thank you. Thank you. I just like to wrap it up with every person just saying something that comes to mind, whatever the fuck you want.
Just immense gratitude. Thank you. I was stuck coming into this morning. Now I'm like, I'm going to go play. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. We've been friends for many years now through our journeys. And we've always talked about this from your first book, to see all this coming together for someone who, like me, who's a healer, not so much corporate, healer and energy, yet believes in all it, wants to bring a different aspect to business. And to see someone like you who's been in that corporate and then kicked it and said, no, this isn't the best way. And I'm just so grateful to be here in this presence and to see this coming to fruition. And this hour has just been like magical to me. It's like tickled my soul. And so I have immense gratitude for Ayelet and Tracy and Tim and everybody else that I know is here and watching. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And always thanks to you, Tim. No matter, I had the week where I had a storm and I kept dropping off because my Wi-Fi died. And thank you for all gathering us and everything you do and everything you create. You are such an amazing soul on this planet, and I'm just truly honored to call every one of you my friends. It's just amazing, and I think the world hasn't seen what's possible yet. Even though we've done a lot so far, there's so much that's possible, and we're going to be addressing humanity's biggest opportunities together.
Great.